Hello and welcome to the very first post-game podcast on the Managing Madrid Podcast 2023-2024 season. Starting off with a bang with a nice W as Real Madrid go into San Mamés, one of the most difficult stadiums to play in. And we get the job done, score 2 goals, create a bunch of chances, concede 0 goals, which is a nice story. Obviously, there's more to that story we can break down as the podcast goes on. And Matt Wiltse, I wanted to start off with this. A toast. I was going to say pour one out, but I don't want to pour my coffee all over the table. A toast to all the Bellingham skeptics in the offseason, particularly the ones who said Bellingham can't succeed at Real Madrid because he's British, and that can't work here. Pour one out. RIP to you guys. Rest in peace. We'll see you in the next world. Rest easy. Matt Wiltse, 2-0, San Mamés. Initial thoughts.
This was fun. This was a lot of fun. I think you saw the lineup and you saw Kroos and Modric on the bench. It was a huge statement from Ancelotti. I think it took a lot of guts from Ancelotti to make that call. And I think so many people heading into the season were like, oh, I don't want Ancelotti for a third season. He's just gonna roll with Kroos and Modric over and over again. Where I think, and I've been vocal about this, like Ancelotti has been the coach that has shepherded us through this transition more so than any other coach. And Militao, Vinicius, Rodrigo, Valverde, all these guys have grown so much under him, and they weren't playing before he arrived. And so it's a completely different team. And I think these 4 midfielders, oftentimes like your midfield identity or the identity for your team comes from the midfield. And these 4 midfielders now shape the identity of Real Madrid. And it's really interesting. It's kind of chaotic, but it's in your face, high energy, really physical, really vertical, picking up second balls, winning the ball high up the pitch, creating a lot of chances. I find it really, really entertaining. So that's why my main takeaway is this is fun.
So I thought Jose had a line on Twitter, Jose Perez, Managing Madrid staff member. He put it nicely where he said this lineup without Kroos and Modric, it is just different, and it lacks the pausa, the ability to just pause the tempo really quick, with Kroos there or Modric there. But it also went into San Mamés, one of the places you go to, and usually one of the problems is lack of intensity. You get out-muscled, and that wasn't the case today. I mean, you saw Bellingham flying back in transition to make slide tackles. The defensive coverage from him was amazing. I mean, the intensity was awesome. And as you said, the verticality. I think, there are challenges in a game like this, but I want to remind people that a game at San Mamés, even if you have our all-time 11, it's going to be a messy one. It's going to be choppy. It's going to be a little bit sloppy here and there. You're going to misplace passes. So it's not going to be perfect. And I thought it was just a really good start to the season. Now, is it sustainable? That's a different question. We can play party pooper later in the podcast, but I thought it was a good start. So I want to go back to the starting lineup comment you made. I was one of the skeptics that Modric and Kroos would have been broken up, but I did ultimately land on the thought this summer that Kroos and Modric will be broken up. What I was surprised in the starting lineup was that both of them were out. I thought Ancelotti would have started one of them. And I don't know how much the season is long, we'll have injuries, etc. There's going to be plenty of games where I think 1 or 2 starts. It's on the table, of course, but it's interesting that he might go with this as his full strength lineup in the biggest game of the season. And the one question mark I wasn't sure, I was pretty sure Tchouameni was going to start as the 6. What I wasn't entirely sure of was if Fede would start over Kroos. I thought Kroos would win the Fede battle in this game, but Fede started. And I'm curious to know what you think. And I want to start here because we all know Bellingham was awesome. We can table that for a second. There's no real questions about how good he was. I'm more curious to explore some of the other players in this lineup that I thought I've seen people be critical on. And I'm curious to know what your thoughts on it, because when I look at this game and I go through my notes, I thought everyone pretty much played well. Even Fran Garcia, who was really criticized in this game, especially at halftime. I thought had his moments, and I think you can kind of excuse his nervousness and his heavy touches and some of his giveaways, because I think once he gets acclimated and gets rid of the nerves, I think there's enough in him that I'm still excited about. But let's start with Fede Valverde. What did you think of his performance today?
Like you, I really enjoyed all four midfielders' performances today. And I think Fede, I feel like you need Fede in the diamond, especially in that right-sided position, because he has the versatility to go out wide when he needs to go out wide, make third man runs through the right channel. And you saw him do that pretty well with Rodrigo and Carvajal. I thought our right side was actually pretty dangerous, given that we don't have a right winger. Those three kind of interchanged between who would be the right winger and who would provide the width. And I think two things that you really see Bellingham and Fede Valverde do well is those late arriving runs and just those runs that are so difficult to track as a midfielder when you're marking him. And it's a quick give and go and you just continue your run. And he does that so well. I think I think back to a couple opportunities he had with his just blistering shot. I mean, I think that's always going to be an element to Fede Valverde's game that you want to see more and more of. It looks like he might even be involved on set pieces now. So I think all in all it's positive, and I think you do need him in this diamond formation. I think he's the type of player that helps balance it and helps kind of give you the extra oxygen both ways, especially in transition. So I was happy with him. What did you think?
I liked him. I thought he was doing the things that he's known for, traditionally speaking. Making those runs in the right half space off the ball, getting it from Carvajal, who was another one I thought actually had a pretty good game. Just make some really good, dangerous runs off the ball. And if you look at that first half, before we started to score, before the 2 goals, most of our danger, like you said, actually came from that right side through Fede and Rodrigo, who were making things happen. And Rodrigo overall, I thought, was quiet. That's in part because I think we tried to go through the left more, but anytime we went to the right, anytime Rodrigo did get it there, good things happen. Obviously the goal, but there were other moments too. So it's kind of interesting because you look at this diamond and you're trying to navigate it and you're trying to figure out if it works, if it doesn't. And I think Ancelotti is just going to see what he has with it over a course of time and see if it continues to improve. Obviously, Bellingham looks great. Fede looks great because it's kind of like a pseudo right wing / midfielder role. He's not a pure right winger, but he's able to carry the ball up the field. He's able to drop back. He's also able to help the right back in that position. There were times where in the build-up phase, it kind of morphed into a double pivot with Tchouameni and Camavinga, Bellingham up top, and then Fede kind of goes more to the right. So you kind of lose the left central midfielder a little bit. But it was interesting kind of how it was very fluid, Matt, right? And I saw some of Camavinga's left back tendencies come out in this game where it just looked like he would go to the left back position and let Fran Garcia go forward a little bit. It was super interesting to see that dynamic and the fluidity. Do you think this is sustainable? Could you score enough goals and keep enough goals out with this formation? Could it just continually improve?
Hard to take preseason as your sample size, but we have no choice. But within preseason and this game, we've seen that this formation and this set of players do create a high volume of chances. And so I do think it is sustainable. What I do question, and it's something I brought up to you when we were in Dallas, is can Jude Bellingham do this over the course of the season? Because a lot is asked of him. And he's spreads himself all over the field. So I don't know if that type of energy and effort is sustainable all for the course of a full season. But what I like from Camavinga, Bellingham, and Fede Valverde in particular is, yes, we don't have that pause anymore. We don't have the control and we don't dictate the tempo as much. But all three of them can break lines through ball carrying and beat 3 or 4 players and then bring us up the pitch 50, 60 meters or 50, 60 yards. And then we're on a 3v2 or a 4v3. Like, it's because of their ability to just break lines and break players down off the dribble and then carry the ball so quickly up the pitch. Like, it brings a whole new dynamic to our team. And so I don't want to be hyperbolic, especially after one game, but I feel like this is the start of a new era, like it's a completely new team. It feels like this is truly the transition we've kind of been waiting for. Now that we've lost so many of our experienced players, so I'm excited by it. I'm really excited.
There were moments when we're talking about like the ability to carry the ball and escape pressure. There were moments for Bellingham, and I think this was part of the impressive thing about Bellingham is that we can all watch the highlight reels from the game. Those magical dribbling sequences, how scary he is in transition. But there were moments where he drops deep to help the team escape pressure. And he gets the ball in these impossibly tight situations. And you're watching, you're like, okay, well, he's going to lose it here because everybody would lose it in this situation. He's getting swarmed and the ball's still at his feet. He gets past someone. His ability to hold the ball and not lose it and be careful with it. This guy's like, got to be like, this guy's about as likable of a star we've signed.
Well, and
that I can remember like right away to like hit the ground running like this. It's rare.
Yeah, and I think those sequences you mentioned, like what strikes me is that he doesn't look, it's not like he's as quick as Vinicius or super fast or anything like that, but somehow he gets out of all these situations and can comfortably beat players, 3 or 4 players off the dribble and then carry the ball up the pitch. Like, there's just something so deceiving about him, and he's kind of lanky, but he's got that Zidane lanky skillfulness. And so, yeah, he was. I mean, what a debut! I mean, he did literally everything you could do: crunching tackles, beat 3 or 4 players off the dribble, shooting with both feet, combining, like you name it, he did it. And that's another reason why I'm so excited for this season. And I think you and I had talked previously, and I said, I don't know if it's the right idea from Ancelotti to change the formation because you're hurting your best player, which is Vinicius, your franchise player. And by changing the formation, you're playing to Bellingham's strengths rather than Vinicius's. But I don't know. Maybe I think Ancelotti might be onto something here with what we've seen from Bellingham. If you get the best out of him, he just influences. He gets the best out of everyone else. And so maybe it's worth that gamble. And I think Vinicius can evolve other parts of his game playing more centrally. And I actually like the fact that sometimes, like you saw today, instead of going 1v1 against fullbacks, which sometimes fullbacks are quicker and more agile than center backs, he's turning and going at center backs and kind of turning them inside out. And so I think that's an interesting little wrinkle where he's not going up against the same defenders he was last year. And maybe it's not the same as playing like these quick athletic fullbacks that think they can contain him. Maybe it's a little bit more kind of heavy, taller, not as agile center backs that he's turning inside and out.
I think your point about whether he can sustain it or not, or you're concerned about it, is valid. And I think it's not because of us doubting his ability or whatever. It's because he's going to play a lot. He's going to play a lot of minutes. The kid didn't even get a break in preseason. Like he played every second of that. And I think he's just going to play a lot. And people like question, like, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Bellingham is not an undisputed starter. And I kind of pushed back on that. I thought he was, because he's on another level, in my opinion. Like, he's just a superstar. And it's interesting to reflect on my own thought process behind signing him a few months ago, where we weren't sure if we were going to get him or not. And my stance was continually, he's not a necessity. A necessity is a striker and a right back. But what a signing he'd be. We'd all be happy. And I'm almost like kind of even trying to rethink my stance. Was he a necessity? Like, the way when you watch him play, it would suck to see a future without him. I guess my point is it would be tough to digest the idea of losing out on him because you're going to have Kroos and Modric for another year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we were looking at it from like a 1-year horizon, whereas maybe Real Madrid were looking at it from a 10-year horizon, saying there's no way I can't have this guy because he's that good. And we've seen that, and I think it maybe gives more credence to Real Madrid's transfer strategy and finding these unicorns and finding the best that you can find, and then kind of making it work around that rather than having the system, having the formation, having like a certain style of play. I don't know. When you see the way Jude Bellingham plays tonight, it makes you think twice about that. And it makes you think, hey, Real Madrid's probably onto something. And again, it's one game, so we can't get ahead of ourselves. But I do think that he just looks like a player that could mark an era. Do you think? Let me ask you this though. Let me ask you this: does like if Jude Bellingham gets injured for a couple months, do you still play the diamond? Is it worth it? And do you have the players to play that position the same way he does?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, this is why I asked Ancelotti that question in preseason. Like, can other players play that role, or is it basically for him? And I don't know if this remains to be true. Like, let's see what Ancelotti's stance would be in that situation. But he mentioned Güler can play there. He mentioned Rodrigo can play there. He mentioned Modric can play there, which I'm not sure if that would actually happen. But Brahim can play there too. We know that. Yeah. Like
the thing don't know if it's the same because everything.
No, it won't be. I think it'll be a drop off for sure.
Yeah.
But like the thing is, like, for example, like we know Rodrigo has actually, there was at least one game where he was brilliant in a role like that, right? Was it Celtic last year at the Bernabeu? So we give him the benefit of the doubt. But Bellingham, what he was doing today was like he was defending deep slide tackling and stuff. And I don't like that's not something a normal number 10 does. And I think there's a whole package, holistic part of Bellingham that I think you'd miss with anyone else. All right. So I did want to transition to, because you mentioned about Vinicius' role in here, and that's obviously been a huge topic. What is your take on this? I'm kind of struggling with this one in some sense because there's been a lot of complaints like about him in a central role. But tonight, for example, he was getting the ball a lot on the left. Like he wasn't only getting it down the middle. And I guess like because last season we were complaining about the fact that maybe he's too much on the left side. Maybe when the game's not coming to him as well as he would like, maybe if the wing back is having the game of his life, maybe if there's not enough space because there's like 3-4 bodies on that side, maybe he should come out of the left side. Maybe he should go down the middle. And now we're kind of saying, well, maybe no, he should just stick to the left side. I think he's getting the ball in both of those positions. And some of those, like the takes where he doesn't pull something off, like Vivian, for example, had a couple of sequences today where he got the better of him. I don't know if that has to do with the diamond or if it's just, sometimes he can pull it off, sometimes he can't. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting. So Ruben actually showed me a graphic on the last podcast I did with him where Vinicius is actually, so it was a comparison of the Copa del Rey final versus the last preseason game. And it was all his touches. And if you look at the touch map, he's basically taking the touches in the same area of the pitch, all mostly on the left side. But the difference is he took, I think it was 16 touches in his own half in the Copa del Rey game. He only took 2 in the preseason game. So he's not picking up those touches deeper in our half of the field. He's picking them all up closer in the final third. And yes, obviously there are some more touches centrally as well. But I think the takeaway for Ancelotti is he wants to have Vinicius higher and doing more damage higher up the pitch, rather than coming back to carry the team forward. Because, like we talked about, now we have so many guys in Camavinga and Fran Garcia, in Valverde and Bellingham that can carry you forward. So he doesn't need Vinicius to do that anymore. Instead, let's use Vinicius's lethal pace and his ability and conserve his energy for higher up the pitch. And so I think that's what we're starting to see. And like I said, I think it's an opportunity for certain elements of Vinicius' game to develop and evolve and just turn him into a more well-rounded player. And so I'm growing on it. And I think maybe he won't be as impactful and have as much influence as he usually does in games, but I do think, to Ancelotti's point, I think he will score more goals, and I think he'll have more end product.
Yeah, my concern about him in preseason was that I thought there were too many instances where he was getting the ball with his back to goal in central areas. But like today, I thought that wasn't really the case. Like I think this was just Vinicius. There were moments of magic, and then there were moments where he couldn't pull it off. I'm just not worried about him anyway.
He was unlucky not to score today too.
He had some bad luck. Yeah. I still think he's going to be the team's top scorer. He's the team's best player, but I don't like. I also think the diamond itself will evolve, and I think it's going to become less and less rigid because we've already seen it become less rigid. It's not really a traditional 4-4-2 as it was in preseason, especially early on. Now it's more of like a fluid thing where people are flying all over the place, and I think it works. All right, let's shift gears. Do you want to talk about Fran Garcia next?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. What was your assessment?
I thought it was a really poor first half. I think he, like you said, he was nervy, some really heavy touches, some bad giveaways, some just rush decision making. I think we saw this in preseason too. I mentioned it when we were in Dallas. I said, I'm still not 100% there yet with Fran Garcia. Like, I really, really like him as a player, but I think Mendes still is the starter. Fran Garcia's looked a little nervy in preseason, and I think that's carried over into the season. And it's understandable. He's a 23-year-old coming into one of the best teams in the world, coming from Rayo Vallecano. Like, it's a completely different world. I think it'll take time for him to settle into the team. But even in the second half, he was much, much better. I think he calmed down a little bit. I think he is going to have to. One thing where he's going to have to develop, because he'll be exposed, is playing under pressure. And like at the highest level in Champions League games, we have to be able to play out through him. And like, how it is, that dinked pass from Lunin or Kepa, I guess, is going to be, it goes to the fullbacks. You dink it to one of the two fullbacks, and you got to be able to play under pressure. And that's where I get worried about him, is like, I think he rushes his decisions and just sometimes has heavy touches or gets nervy when he gets pressed.
Yeah, and I agree with that assessment overall, but I said this on Twitter too at halftime. I didn't think it was, I thought it was nervy for sure. I thought there were definitely some jitters in his performance, but I saw some good things there, and I thought his performance was, like, the shaky moments were not down to a technical inability or anything. I think it was just down to nerves. So I thought his passes down the flank to Vinicius were pretty good. I also think, I don't know, maybe he just had some bad luck, because two of his really good passes down to Vinicius down that flank were immediately flagged for offside. I wasn't 100% clear on the replay if he was actually offside. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't, but that's besides the point. Like, maybe if he wasn't offside, maybe he gets a key pass or a hockey assist in that situation. But I thought those passes down the line were good. I think there are good problems, and by that I mean he's extremely tenacious. He's always in attack mode. He wants to get the ball up the field. He might need to learn when to pick and choose his spots in those situations. But I think, like, some of the giveaways and some of those lapses on the ball, hopefully were just down to the fact that he was making his Real Madrid debut and he loves the club. And hopefully that those will kind of just be shedded out of his system. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, to your point on the intensity, he's also just so insanely fast that even when he makes mistakes, he can quickly recover.
Yeah.
And so I like that side of it. And think about it from a defender's perspective. You have Fran Garcia and Vinicius running at you. Oh my God, that's just, nobody can keep up with that.
Yeah. I also, like, we didn't see it much today, but he's got a great cross on him too.
Yeah, he had that one to Rodrigo that Rodrigo just missed.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. I also thought like his recoveries on defense were pretty good, like to kind of close down crosses. It was all fine. The other one I was really impressed with in the back line. Not that I was really impressed with Fran Garcia, but just a segue into another member of the back line. I thought David Alaba was awesome tonight. Lost count of how many times I was impressed with his vertical passing just to get the ball up the field. His last-ditch clearances and tackles, defensive reads were fantastic. He had a huge block shot in the 73rd minute. I can't remember who shot it, but
I think Sunset.
Was it Sunset? Yeah. A player who should have probably started, but he came off the bench, and Alaba with a huge block in that situation. It's pretty amazing because, when you think about it, Matt, we talk so much about Courtois saving the day. We didn't really have Lunin have to make many saves tonight. In the first half, I think it was just one. It was the Fran Garcia giveaway, which led to the semi-controversial Militao challenge, which was not awarded as a penalty. Apart from that, in the first half, there was nothing. Second half, there was a bit more, but Lunin didn't get tested much, and I think that's a good sign because we don't want our goalkeeper to be the best player of the game.
Yeah, and I think in our preseason predictions, I had Alaba as the unsung hero of the season, and I think it's forgotten how much he missed last season, like through injury, and we missed him. He's not only did he make all those last-ditch tackles, he had great progressive passing, but he's such a leader back there. Like you saw him kind of give pat Lunin's head and just kind of G up all his teammates, giving high fives, like constantly barking orders. I think he does a great job with that. And it stood out to me when we were watching him live that he's constantly telling the back line where to be and like when to push up and catch a player off sides and stuff like that. And I just think we missed him for such large parts of last season that I really, really hope he can stay fit for the majority of the season, because think back to his first year, like we were all blown away. It was like Bellingham. Like we were like, this guy looks like he's played for Real Madrid for 10 years. He became a fan favorite right away. He made us forget about Sergio Ramos, which is insane to say. So I'm really hoping he can stay fit because he's such an important member back there.
Well, that's why I always like when there's conversations about Militao or Rudiger who should start. To me, the constant mainstay should be Alaba. In part because he plays that left center back role really well, but also because there's just a calming leadership figure. He's not as aggressive with his step up interventions like Militao and Rudiger, and his ball progression is fantastic. Rudiger is too, or was at Chelsea anyway. But Alaba, I feel like there's something about his ability to control that left channel and the understanding he has with pretty much any left back you put him there. There's a leadership role with him too. To me, if he's healthy, he's a mainstay.
Yeah, yep. I think Ancelotti sees it that way too. Like I never worry when he gets pressed or when he's on the ball. Like never worry, never feel like he's gonna lose it.
Yeah. Thoughts on Camavinga tonight?
Again, I thought he was really, really good. This is probably my favorite performance from him as a number 8, as an interior left central midfielder. I haven't been that convinced by him in that role for Real Madrid at least, and I think this was his best performance in that role. Like you said, he kind of got to do a little bit of everything. Like there were sometimes the diamond, if you watch it, just turns into a square where Camavinga and Tchouameni are double pivots and Jude and Fede are higher. And I think when he can start from those deeper positions and make those bursting runs through, thought he was really good off the dribble, being able to carry us up the pitch. I thought he was solid. I thought it's exciting because you have those combos of Fran, Camavinga, Vinicius on the left, and then Fede, Rodrigo, Carvajal on the right. Like, despite not having true wingers on the field, like we get the movement over there, and it all kind of connects. So I liked it. I liked it from him today.
Like I said earlier in the show, I liked his almost interchangeability with Fran Garcia playing on that side. Touches were great under pressure for the most part. There were a couple of giveaways that I think he could clean up some of those moments of carelessness with the ball. One that I thought I was really disappointed with was there's a really good transition attack late in the game, and we're flying up, looks great, and he kind of overcomplicates it with a few step overs when he should have just played the ball to Jude Bellingham. Other than that, was really good. Balls out of the back, really good. One sequence stood out, 45th minute. DeMarcos is coming up the right wing with the ball, and he thinks he's in open water. He thinks he's set to run down the wing. Camavinga comes out of nowhere, hunts him down, and then forces DeMarcos into a giveaway. There's just a tirelessness, Matt, to the midfield right now, where I think that, and that really bodes well for our transition defense, and I'm excited about that. You choose where we go from here.
We got to talk about my boy, Tchouameni.
He's your boy now?
He's my boy now. No, but in all seriousness, like, I'm really happy to see, him get the start, because I wasn't sure. He was the one doubt I had. I didn't know if Carlo was going to go with Cruz there. And I think he 100% earned it. I think he was one of our best players, if not the best player in preseason. And this is the guy that was hyped up to us from Monaco when he made the transfer from Monaco, and what we scouted and what we saw. Like, second half of last season, that wasn't him. This is the guy, and that's what makes me really happy. And Tchouameni, you can be my boy now if you play like this. Like, this is what I feel really secure with him. Like, I think the diamond formation works in large part because not only Bellingham, but because of Tchouameni, and just his discipline. I think his passing this preseason and then this first game has looked much crisper. Really, he plays like the front foot. We got asked when we were in Dallas, like, who's going to be the guy that builds out of the back for us, when we're trying to build up against deep blocks. And I think Tchouameni took on a lot of that role today and looked really good. So I think I'm happy for him. I'm happy that he's been able to turn it around. I'm happy that he's showing what type of player he is. He works in this new look midfield. I think it really complements him, and I'm excited to see more of him. I'm excited for him to keep this going.
Well, this version of Tchouameni, the version of him before the World Cup last year, the version of him in preseason, the version of him today, the version of him at the French national team, the version of him at Monaco. It's one of the best defensive midfielders in the game. His ability to read the play, his ability to make a crunching challenge, send a message, his ability to progress the ball, play those vertical passes, top notch. Even like there was a couple where he didn't pull off today, but they were well intentioned to slice through Athletics defense, which wasn't that easy overall in large stretches in this game. And I thought he just made good decisions on the ball. I was happy with him too. I still think, like, all this discussion about the high flying midfield and how good they are on both ends of the field, these four. I still think there is room for Cruz in here as a ball progressor. I still think there were moments in this game where I think a Cruz presence would have helped, especially kind of like to start the game, some of the intense moments. I thought it would have helped.
Who would you have started him over?
My initial thought was to start him over Fede. But obviously in hindsight we won, and I don't have any complaints. It was also interesting, like, our second half I thought wasn't as good as our first half. And I wanted to know your thoughts on that, because there is actually a dramatic change in playing style. And Ancelotti spoke about it after the game, pretty much confirming what we saw already, which was he shifted to a 4-4-1. 4-4-1-1.
4-5-1 or 1-1?
He said the words 4-4-1-1, I think.
Yeah.
I have to look it up again, but he brought in Cruz and Modric, took away Vinicius and Rodrigo, went with Joselu. Did that surprise you at all? That dramatic of a change of bringing up Vinicius and Rodrigo?
Here's my thing with that decision. I think part of the reason why I don't think we played as well once they came onto the pitch and you saw us kind of sit deeper, that's fine. We were sustaining more pressure. That's kind of expected with Athletic Bilbao chasing the game. I think the Joselu sub, I'm really bullish on Joselu, and I think he's going to have important minutes this season. I think he will be a good contributor, but I don't think he was the right sub there. Like, you're now playing on the counter. Joselu has no pace. We're not playing any wingers to cross the ball into him. Like, why did you throw on Joselu? I would have kept Vinicius on there, and just played him through the counter. Just keep him high, and as soon as we win the ball, you hit him on the counter. There were a couple times where the team was looking for an outlet, and like I think one time Modric even played it through to Joselu, and it's like, what's he gonna? That's not his game. So that's where I didn't necessarily like. Okay, Ancelotti, I see what you're trying to do, but I don't think Joselu's the option there. Then if we're gonna take off all our wingers and guys he can actually combine with.
So that's an interesting point. And I thought there were two examples that back up what you're saying. One is that sequence you're talking about, the pass to Joselu in a deeper area coming out of pressure when the team was in a deeper block, which did not go great. Although the pass itself wasn't from Modric wasn't great if we're talking about the same sequence. But if you get Joselu the ball in the box in those situations, it turns out really well. Do you remember that sequence in the 84th minute? Modric makes this brilliant pass to Carvajal in the right half space in the box. Joselu with a really nice layoff in the box to Modric for Modric to shoot it. In those situations, it's good, but I do think it can be a little bit difficult if you want because Joselu in that situation, the team is in a deeper block playing in a 4-4-1-1. He's going to have to do a lot of hold up and link up play, and maybe that's problematic. Can I indulge you in an idea that a player that I think would have worked in this situation, but we don't have?
Sure.
Sergio Arribas.
Oh, Sergio Arribas. And would you put him in the one role?
I would I just think like in a situation where you're in deeper block and you need to get the ball up the field and you have young, fresh legs, I think Arribas would be great to bring off in transition there. I also think Brahim would have been interesting in this situation as well, but we didn't see him, and I don't know how much Ancelotti trusts him.
Not to get too off track, but I watched Sergio Arribas' second half when he came on for Almeria. He looked great.
Yeah,
I think he's going to do really well.
Yeah. Do you want to announce your tweet, your hot take about the World Cup?
Oh, I said it on the last pod, and I think I've said it a couple times, but I'll say it again. I think he'll be Spain's best player at the 2026 World Cup. We'll see if it comes to fruition, but that's how much I believe in this kid. Maybe I'm hyping him up way too much, but
3 years is a long time. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. But you mentioned that sequence with Carvajal, Modric, and Joselu. I thought Carvajal was really, really good today. Like, full 90 minutes right from the start. Thought he was really good. Even when Fran was nervy and some other players looked a little nervy, like, I thought he just made really astute decisions, knew when to come inside, knew when to press. I thought this was one of his better games, which is encouraging. It felt like the captain's armband elevated him. Like, he has more pressure on him to perform well.
So Carvajal deserves his accolades tonight. Defensive reads were good, stepped up at the right time. Even had to come over to the left side a couple times to stop attacks and win the ball. Worked hard. A couple of mistakes that he made, he recovered and made a defensive intervention. Involved in, obviously, the Rodrigo goal. No complaints of Carvajal tonight.
And I'm happy for Rodrigo. I'm happy he's like, those are the goals you want him to score. The ones that probably, not low XG opportunity, but he's fine in the back of the net. Like, the other ones that he missed last year, he'll get those right. So if he can pick up goals like these, then his numbers will skyrocket this year. So I'm glad he picked one up on the first game of the season.
What was the XG on that one?
I didn't see the XG. I saw
I have it here.
On the game, during the game, which, by the way, I like La Liga's new graphics in camera. Like, I think they've done a nice job with that. During the game, they showed it as like a 12% opportunity. So
0.06.
Yeah.
And Bellingham's was 0.04.
What was the XG overall for this one?
Real Madrid 1.33, Athletic 0.7. Real Madrid's also, most of it was in the first half. Second half, they didn't have much. And
0.7 for Athletic?
Yeah, 0.7 because is that high to you?
Yeah, that seems, I can't even remember a save Lunin had.
Their biggest one was Berenguer's shot in the 75th minute, which was blocked.
Can't even remember it.
Yeah, so there was that. There were I don't want to get into party pooper mode yet. I have some party pooping things to say. The concerning thing about this was the Militao injury.
Yeah.
Ancelotti says after the game, Militao's injury doesn't look good. We're not ruling anything out.
It looked like the way he reacted and the way he felt, it looked like ACL, which would be crazy to have two ACLs.
But he was walking. Is that a good sign?
You can walk after an ACL. You can.
I just remembered I tore my ACL and I walked.
Yeah.
And it's yeah. I'm worried about that one.
If it is an ACL tear, do you think we sign anyone?
No chance. Well, we have Rudiger or
Nacho.
Yeah. Rudiger, Nacho, Alaba is what was I'm not saying I agree with this guy. I'm just saying there's no way that I don't think the club will sign anyone.
Yeah. It would have actually been nice to still have like Rafa Marina around just in case.
Yeah.
But I think, I think if it does get to that fourth choice, you might have to go down to Castilla, where there are, I liked Carrillo, what I saw from Carrillo last year. Like, he looked really good. And Marvel's still looks a little raw to me. He's playing more of like a left back, left center back, but
I honestly think like if it got to that situation this season where you need to dig deep and get a Castilla guy like Carlo, I would be skeptical of Carlo calling up a center back. I think he would probably do something like
Carvajal.
Well, what would he do in that situation?
Carvajal. I remember the Chelsea game and Carvajal.
Well, that was an extreme scenario where we had no subs left or something, right?
I guess you could put Tchouameni there and then put Cruz at DM or something.
Oh God,
I think he'd probably do that.
Well, hopefully we'll never get to that. I wanted to also go over some things. I'll share my screen here. Some stats that caught my eye. I'm hoping you haven't seen. Did you read Sam Leverage's piece on Managing Madrid?
Not yet, no.
Okay, cool. This will be a nice surprise for you because I always like to learn new things from you and in Sam's post-game game pieces. So I'm going to share my screen here. All right. So, this is the wrong page. 3 stats from Athletic Club, 0 Real Madrid 2, as posted by Sam Leverage on the website. We've gone 15 years now, unbeaten in the first match of La Liga. Did you know that?
I actually did know that because I forget where I saw it. I saw that we were 14 years before this game somewhere. So,
all right, that kind of surprised me. Jude Bellingham becomes the 3rd Englishman to score on his La Liga debut for Real Madrid. It's interesting. I mean, like, we don't have that many.
I remember Beckham's, of course, but I forgot about Woodgate.
Yeah, Woodgate's obviously is kind of. I mean, I don't even think Sam didn't include Woodgate in here.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, he did. But I don't know if that includes the 3 because Laurie Cunningham, David Beckham, and Bellingham, that's 3. Woodgate is if you wanted to cheat, that's 4.
Scored in the wrong net. No, I think he scored. Didn't he score?
No, Woodgate scored an own goal. No,
only an own goal?
Yeah.
I thought he scored a regular goal too.
No, own goal, red card.
Okay. For some reason, I thought he scored a regular goal too.
Maybe you're right, and I'm losing my marbles, and I can't remember. But I thought it was just a red card, own goal. And here's the XG from our goals combined, 0.12. I think that slightly differs from what Understat had. I think Understat has it as 0.1 total. But either way, it's nice to overperform our XG when we created so many chances we couldn't score on. Now, the question is this sustainable? And that I'm not 100% sure yet. Time will tell. Okay, so here's what I wanted to bring up with you. This is where we play party pooper. Athletic cannot score a goal. If we have goal scoring problems, they're like on another level of goal scoring problems. And it's not just this game. Based on last season, they don't have a striker that can score. They create a bunch of chances, they can't score them. You know, last year I think it was Nico Williams had 10, Sunset had 10, and those were their goal scorers. So they didn't really have anyone to punish some of our giveaways today. And that's it. That's all I'm saying. That's it. Our job is to just provide every perspective possible. So I wonder what this looks like. But hey, it sounds like an old man yelling at the cloud, but it's just reading the reality. And
well, the other thing too with Athletic Bilbao is they lost their 2 starting center backs.
That's
Iñigo
right.
Martinez went to Barcelona. Uriah Alvarez was injured, so they were playing Vivian and Paredes. And Paredes in particular is like very, very little La Liga experience, and he was the one that didn't close Rodrigo down on the goal. And so those were 2 that I thought the team would target, and they kind of did. And yeah, I mean, I think what you're trying to say, if we read in between the lines, is that this Athletic Bilbao team is not that good. But I think you can always preface that by saying, hey, first game of the season, big night in Bilbao at San Mamés, which is an incredible stadium, like really, really, really nice stadium. Like feels like a big night. I'm actually really happy Jude Bellingham's first game in Spain was at San Mamés, because that's kind of a cool experience. Like it's not the same as playing at Getafe. It feels like a big game. And so that I think when you put those ingredients together, like they can always do something. So
you saw the picture of his celebration.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, let me see if I can I think Arancha had it on her Twitter. Maybe I'll just bring it up here. Yeah, fantastic. Bellingham overall. Celebration was great too. Anything else that we missed?
I thought Rudiger was good when he came in for Militao, brought the intensity we know from Rudiger. Other than that, I think we covered everything, right?
I think so. I'll do a flip through to my notes too. Here's that really cool picture of Bellingham Arancha posted.
Look at
yeah, Rudiger had one clearance where he comes over to the right side, and as he's running over, he's doing his knee thing, his knee sprint.
Yeah.
It's still one of the greatest things in football is the high knee sprint. Okay, so we talked about. Oh, so I thought our press could have been better.
I thought defensively we were much better, though.
We were. I think our structure was fantastic. There were just a couple sequences in the beginning where I thought only like the front 3 were pressing, and it kind of Athletic were able to go through. But overall, our structure was much better than in games past. And I'm sure that there was a point of emphasis for Carlo Ancelotti too, because he's been talking about it so much in the press conferences.
Yeah.
We talked about Bellingham. We talked about Vinicius, who, by the way, I think also had some bad luck. You mentioned this at the beginning of the podcast, but there was that one moment in the second half where Athletic give the ball away. Vinicius intercepts it, plays this nice ball to Rodrigo. Rodrigo's pass back to Vinicius just quite isn't there, but if he gets it to him in a better position, Vinicius might score. We talked about Fran Garcia, Alaba, Joselu, Modric. Oh, Lunin. I know he didn't have that much to do, but can we say he passed the test?
Yeah, I mean,
apart from maybe one shaky moment I think he had in the first half.
I thought he was really good coming off his line to clear crosses or pick up crosses or punch out. Like usually I feel like he's a little tentative. But today I thought he was good coming off his line. He does worry me with the ball at his feet. And he had a couple of those shaky moments, but and I think that's why Carlo vetoed De Gea, and I think it's why he likes Kepa and Bono, because they're good with their feet. And we used to we've talked about how much better Courtois has gotten in that department. And I've seen a graphic recently showing like the best goalkeepers with their feet, and Courtois is actually ranks up there with the best of them now.
He's improved dramatically
so,
in that regard.
Yeah, so that's why I think Ancelotti's emphasizing on that front, and so maybe this kind of segues us into the Kepa discussion.
Lunin 7 of 10 long balls completed tonight, not bad. Okay, Kepa. I mentioned this too on Friday when Jose and I did the preview for this game, that a lot of people were asking, how come you guys didn't talk about Courtois, the injury? Lucas and I covered that for 1 hour on patreon.com/Managing Madrid. If you want access to our analysis on Courtois and future goalkeepers and all that stuff, including Mbappe and all that stuff you guys love, that's over on patreon.com/Managing Madrid. So news broke today that Kepa is on his way to Real Madrid. Ancelotti dodged the question after the game. He said he's not a Real Madrid player, can't talk about him. If Kepa arrives, what are your thoughts? Yeah, start there. What are your thoughts?
What I really like about Kepa is that he's great with the ball at his feet. Like, I think you don't think so?
I think he's okay. I don't know. I
like his distribution with his feet. I think he's much better than Lunin. And I think he's probably an upgrade even over Courtois. Maybe I haven't seen him in a while, but I just remember even from his Athletic Bilbao days and early Chelsea days, like, I thought he was great with the ball at his feet. I didn't watch much of Chelsea last season when he started playing again. So, but I think that's where he excels. Whether or not he's going to be like, I don't think he's good aerially. I don't think he's good like what Lunin did today, coming off his line and clearing out crosses and punching out corners and stuff like that. Like, I think that's where he can get dominated. I don't know that he'll be as good like 1v1, just point blank. Like, think back to that Dembele opportunity that Courtois stopped in the Clásico. Like, I don't think he's going to produce those types of saves. I think he's a decent shot stopper. But I don't know. I mean, do you think he comes in and automatically takes over the starting spot over Lunin?
Well, I kind of have a maybe almost the opposite perspective as you on Kepa, that I think I'm more excited. I don't know if excited is the right word. I'm higher on his shot stopping than I am with the ball at his feet. But I think I think he would start over Lunin, but I also think that it's a good signing. Like, I've seen two things. I've seen Chelsea fans celebrate this one. And I've seen a lot of Real Madrid fans just shake their head and and do the face palm. And I don't like what do you guys expect? What do you guys want? You just lost Courtois to an ACL injury. You have to sign someone. You're not getting prime Buffon right now. It's not like, the concern I had with Kepa was that like he'd probably be the most expensive one, but that problem's gone out the window now because he's coming out on loan. And it's only for 1 year. There's no obligation to buy him. I see nothing wrong with this idea of bringing him in. Yeah,
I 100% agree. I'm in the same boat as you. Like, I don't get the super negativity. Like, it's a deal that makes sense. And I think it's funny how just circumstances and events work out, and that this was a guy that nearly signed for Real Madrid back in 2018, and then 5 years later, both he and De Gea, the two guys that nearly signed for us, come to the point where they're kind of back on the agenda and will now sign for. I just think it's funny how those things work out. And yeah, I'm not overly negative on it. Like, I like it. Like, I'm excited by. I was excited by the prospects that weren't De Gea just because they were good with the ball at their feet. So I think we've just seen how important that's become for this Real Madrid team, this Ancelotti coached Real Madrid team. And I think you have to emphasize that. And I think that's ultimately why De Gea got vetoed.
Yeah, I'm okay with De Gea getting vetoed. I was higher on Bonu and Livakovic is another one that I like, that I don't think the club is even entertaining right now, but I like him too. De Gea wasn't, that excited about. Although, like, I understood the situation if you do end up signing him, but he didn't excite me. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah,
I think Kepa makes sense. I'm fine with it. I think that's all I got.
Solid start to the season. I mean, again, I feel like we've said it a couple times now, but going away to Bilbao in CMMS is not easy. First day of the season, like, and playing this new look team. So I'm really happy. I'm excited for the next few games. It's entertaining. Like, that's especially like where we're at. Like, we want fun, entertaining game, like something fresh, something new, and that all excites me. So I think I'm looking forward to this season.
Next up, Sergio Arribas and Almeria.
Oh, nice.
Away from home.
Oh.
I will take a Real Madrid W. Like, give me a 5-1 win and Arribas scores the 1.
5-3, Arribas hat trick.
If he's going to score a hat trick, give us 7-3.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, 7-3. That's reason. Football gods should sign up for that.
Yeah.
That's a reasonable prayer.
Yeah.
All right, Matt. This was fun. Yeah. Glad to be doing the post-game shows with you again. And do you want to keep us updated on any upcoming shows with Ruben?
Probably this coming Friday.
Okay. And where do people get that? For free
Patreon.
Or for Patreon? On Patreon.
Patreon. Yep.
Okay. Patreon.com/Managing Madrid. You get the weekly mailbag. You get the segment with Matt and Ruben, the big picture segment. You get the midweek Zoom call, weekly live Zoom call, where you can actually turn your camera on, turn your microphone on, and interact with us, ask us questions, all that stuff. That's over on patreon.com/Managing Madrid. Matt, thanks. It was a pleasure. Chat soon.
Thanks, Kiyan.
All right. Thanks for listening, guys. And before we send you along on your way, we wanted to give a shout out to our patrons over on patreon.com/Managing Madrid. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for being a part of this Real Madrid family. As a reminder, if you're a patron, you get access to a ton of bonus content. And if you pledge $10 or more, not only do you get access to all the content, you also get guaranteed responses to your questions, and you get a specific shout out on the podcast. So shout out to these $10 plus patrons as follows: Brandon Alvarez, Willie Reed, Will Sousa, Wamik Jamal, Tobias Arroyo Botcher, Tahmid Kalam, Sushank Damala, Sujai Wani, Somanchu Singh, Sheikh Hatiri, Sergio Arispe, Santos Solorzano, Samuel Justin, Samar Z, Sai Mohan, Sasi Kumar, Rodrigo Balmaceda, Rishi D, Phoenix, Peter Powell, Paulo Fierro, Patrick Diafati, Oscar Barrera, Nico Laxo, Nicholas Moller, Nick Ribeiro, Nelson Masariego, Naveen Babu, Ramesh Babu, Mowgli, MJ Diego, Mikel, Michael Zinberg, Marin Myrtle, Matthew Atkins, Martin Ridman, Magnus Lext, Logan Stahl, Leon Stavronakis, Kunal Tilakar, Crystal Glass, Kevin Rivera, Jose Osorio, Jose Cruz, John Fernandez, Jeff Soa, Jason Fitz, Jacob P., Ian Marley, Howard Moore, Graham Gerard, Gary Kohut, Frederick Rantakiro, Frederick Sundros, S.A. Davisito, Eloy Enriquez, Edward Sossman, Daniel Williams, Connor McMorrow, Christian Toff, Christian Acosta, Brendan Powers, Brandon Stevens, Arnab Mukherjee, Armand Gashi, Armando L., Anthony Tharp, Andres Silvestre, Ananya Kumar, Alex Steiberg, Azaz Hussein, Adar Zalikovic, Adam Dorsey, Bella Chow, Varun Ramtin Magrur, Fabian Moreno, and Daniel Smith. Absolute legends. Thank you so much for your support. We love having you part of this family. And Hala Madrid.